All right, let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakudash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Back to the Basics, the Fundamentals. And pretty much I was just watching the Elder Yashwamba's video um, entitled Back to the Basics, Abraham's Kindred, something else, and Blessing, something like that. And very good video. I almost watched the whole thing. And, I I say that every young brother that's in Great Millstone that's learning should watch that video because that video is a very good edifying video and it gives you a blueprint into the contract of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai that he made with the nation of Israel. I mean, there's other points, that could also be raised and brought up, but that is a good start for those of you that are just learning. Like the elder mentioned in that video, these are things that you need to know, because you have these individuals that don't know these points. They can go to Revelation and they could go to Daniel, they could break this down and the other. But when it comes down to the promise that the Lord made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they can't, touch on that. They get lost. And that's a very good video. Like I said, this video, Lord, we're going to touch on some other points concerning that, and with many other videos that we've done in the past. You men in Great Millstone are well equipped, to deal with anyone out there when it comes to these scriptures. And it's up to your discretion, who, if you want to deal with somebody or not. And if someone comes up and they're sincere, of course, you can deal with them. But if you perceive someone as just a snake, then you just dismiss them. You don't have no dealings with a clown like that, because scriptures say, cast not your pearls before swine, and give not that which is holy unto the dogs. Because they're not worthy of it. Because all they're gonna do is trample it under their feet, and then a fight might break out. You know, so pretty much to avoid that, you just dismiss them when you perceive that they're full of shit. You know. So I said, call this back to the basics, the fundamentals or foundational fundamentals, should have called it. So fundamental is forming a necessary base or core of central importance. And the scriptures speak about study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. When we go to Proverbs 4:7, right, it says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. So yeah, we got to get knowledge and wisdom. It says, um, and with all that getting, get understanding, because the understanding is what cements the whole package together. Now, the elder spoke about the word nation, right? When we go to the word Gentile in Isaiah 11, I want to start off there because this is speaking about Yahushai, right? Isaiah 11:1, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse. Who is Jesse? Jesse is the father of King David. King David came out of Jesse's loins, and then eventually Yahushai came out of that lineage, that kingly lineage, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The branch is dealing with Yahushai, right? Now, when we jump down to the 10th verse, and in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people, which is Yahushai. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. This word Gentiles here is not talking about the actual Gentiles, it's talking about the Israelite foreigners scattered among these nations. All right, let's get the word Gentiles, which is the plural form. And this is why people get all twisted and contorted. The word for Gentiles is the word Gawaya, but in the case of Gentiles, is Gawayum. The yum at the end makes it plural. All right. So Gawaya, which is singular for nation, means nation, people. Nation, people, usually of non-Hebrew people. It's just people. It's just a nation, and people. It just means nation in general. whether it's talking about an Israelite, whether it's talking about a heathen or whatever, usually a non-Hebrew people, not all the time. It depends on the context of the scripture. And this is where people get caught up. The word Gentile, well, that's talking about the heathens. No, not in every case. This is why you have to qualify it. This is why you have to, learn or know the context of what it's speaking of. When it's speaking of salvation, good things coming to those Gentiles, those are Israelites, Israelite foreigners. When it speaks about judgment, destruction, captivity, slavery, that's talking about the actual heathen. Of descendants of Abraham, yeah, you could say that because nation and companies of nation came out of Abraham, of Israel, see? So there's times when it applies to Israel. A swarm of locusts, other animals. So you have to know when you're reading the scriptures, what context is it bringing out. So this here is talking about the Israelites scattered throughout the nations. And how do we know that? Because when you read the very next verse, it says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall send his hand again the second time to recover or redeem, bring back the remnant or the remainders of his people," because you have an election that's going to be saved, "which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea." So the Lord is going to be around these nations to gather those Israelites. And those Israelites that's in those nations that are being called by those nations' nationality, they're going to seek to the Lord. All right. "And he shall set up an ensign for the nations," which is Yahushai, "and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth." And this is what the Lord is coming to do. And this is why you'll see the word Gentile, because the Israelites became foreign to the Lord. Not all of them, but some of them did. A good portion of them did. All right. So it spoke about the root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. Right. Let's go from there. Let's go to Genesis. I just want to keep this other precept. Let's go to Genesis chapter 49 and verse 8. Judah is Yahweh, or the so-called Negroes, the head tribe. "Thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise," right? Because Judah is the head. This is why they can do such amazing things, and this is why everyone on the planet Earth wants to be Judah, but nobody wants to be Judah. It confuses the hell out of me. Inside joke. "Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies." Yeah, because Jake is going to eventually get their hands around Esau, the main enemy, and the nations too. You could continue reading on in Isaiah 11 chapter, and it goes into that. It says, "Thy father's children shall bow down before thee." Yeah, because Judah is the head tribe. And if you have a problem with that, then you have a problem with the order that the Lord set up. And you ain't going to make it. "Judah is a lion's whelp, from the prey my son thou art gone up." Yeah, you pretty much left off knowing who the enemy is, loving your enemy, but hating your own brothers. "He stooped down, he couched as a lion," right? You got lazy. Back in the 60s and the 70s, Jake was more in tune with knowing who the enemy is. Today, you Jakes have no clue, who the enemy is. You're looking at your own people as an enemy, right? "And as an old lion, who shall rouse him up?" Because the Lord is going to stir Jake up to go against Esau. He's going to fan those flames, and we're coming into some really, really rough times right now, and it's going to intensify. It says, "The scepter shall not depart from Judah." Why? Because the scepter represents rulership. Judah is the head, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. Shiloh means what? Peace, right? "In the land of Ephraim," I believe that was Samaria, if I'm not mistaken, you had the first place where the Ark of the Covenant was at, where they kept, everything at, was in Shiloh. Then it was taken, and then from there, it ended up in Jerusalem, because that was the final destination where the worship of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua would happen. Shayalah, he whose it is, that which belongs to him, tranquility, meaning uncertain. Tranquility, when something is tranquil, is what? Is peaceful. So it's like another way of saying peace. The word epithet of the Messiah. Right. This is another name for Yahweh Shai. Let's see. Shalah. Shalah is to be at rest, prosper, be quiet, be at ease. So what? It also means to be at peace, secure or successful. So peaceful until Shiloh come, the one that's going to secure the peace of the people to recover the remnant of the nation of Israel. All right. It says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. See? So who is the people? The Israelites. In this case, it'll be the elect of the nation of Israel, and the rest will come back through, through the ones that make it out of here. All right, because not all Israel that's on the soils of America, Babylon the Great, is going to make it. So let's go back here, since we established that. So pretty much the Lord is coming to gather Israel from among all these nations. Why? Because that was what happened to us. Let's go to Nehemiah real quick, and then we'll go get to this other one. Nehemiah chapter 1 and verse 8. Remember, I beseech you, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, if you transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. When you look up that word nations there, right, you have the word, or in this case, they have the word ba'aim yam, which is the people, or in people. Aim is people. But the word usually translated as nation in the English is usually the word Gentile or Gawaya. In this case, it's just people, among the people. All right. Right. It says, I will scatter you abroad among the nations, but if you turn unto me and keep my commandments and do them, though they were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of the heaven, yet will I gather them from thence, and I will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. So the Israelites will be scattered and gathered. And how is the gathering going to come? Through Yahweh Shai, by this gospel, which is his word. Let's go to Baruch chapter 5. Let's go straight to the point. 5 and 5. Baruch chapter 5 and 5. Arise, O Jerusalem, and stand on high, and look about toward the east, and behold thy children gathered from the west. Where are we at? In the western hemisphere. Unto the east. And how are the children of Israel being gathered from the west? By the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the remembrance of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem El Shai, because we were lost and we had to be brought back. Right? Let's go to Baruch chapter 2 and verse 29. It says, if you will not hear my voice, and surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations where I will scatter them. Everywhere you turn, it speaks about the Israelites being scattered. This is why the Apostle James addressed his letter to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. If you will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations where I will scatter them. See? For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves. See? And shall know that I am the Lord their power, for I will give them an heart and an ears to hear, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name, because the Lord's going to bring us back to remembrance. And he's doing that through the gathering of the internet. I got to get ready to roll in a little bit, so I'm just going to hit some more precepts, some more points, and then Lord's will I could do. Either do a follow-up to this or just go in another direction. Whatever the Spirit allows. 2 Ezra 6 and 20, and when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, this is how we're going to know that the world, that Esau's world is finished. Then I will show these tokens. They're going to be signs that's going to be shown. The books shall be opened before the firmament. What are the books? The Bible. What is the firmament? The ozone layer. What is out there? Satellites. What do satellites do? Transmit signals across the world, right? The book shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see all together. Why? Because you have a remnant of the nation of Israel scattered among the world, among all these different nations that will be gathered by the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Through this gospel, that's what Yahushai said, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached unto all the world, and then shall the end come. So, going back here to, I wanted to go to Genesis 10, because in Genesis 10, because people get caught up in the word Gentile. Genesis 10, right? And 5, this is the genealogies of the 3 sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay? And in the first verse down, it starts to go into Japheth. Well, actually, verse 2, it starts to go into Japheth's lineage, or the descendants of Japheth. And when we get to the 5th verse, it says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands. And this is why you have unlearned individuals out there among these Christians that do some studying, that say that, see, the only Gentiles are Japheth. No, we're going to explain it, because I had this conversation, on the comment board back in the days when we used to spend hours and hours and hours on the comment board going back and forth with these individuals to no avail, mind you. And I explained it to him, and then once I explained it to him, he was just like, oh shit. It says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. Okay? So they're saying in this case that the only Gentiles are the Japhetic people. And I say no, because when you look at the word Gentiles is the word Ha-Gawayim, the nations. Ha is the, Gawayim is nation. And the singular form of that is Gawaya. Okay, Gentiles, which you read earlier, nation, people. Okay, now when you go back, it says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after their tongue, after their families, in their nations. And when we go to the word nations, same deal. Ba, Gawaya, Hum, in nations, Gawaya. So nations and Gentiles are synonymous with each other. What the problem comes is when you see the word Gentile, they'll say, well, all non-Israelites. No, we just read in the definition for the word Gentiles, Gawaya, that sometimes it applies to Israel. All right? When you see scriptures like the nation of Israel, see, this is the ignorance of these people out here. And we point this out, and they still don't want to accept it. But that's all right. I think there's one that says nation of Israel altogether, but this is good regardless. So right here, Exodus 19:6, right? Let's go to that. It says, and you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests. I'm sorry, I started at 5. Exodus 19:5. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And the Apostle Peter quoted this when he was speaking or addressing those strangers that were scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Bithynia, and Asia. Those were Israelites that were scattered, that this was spoken to back during the time of Moses. And it still applied in 2,000 years ago, and it still applies to this day. Because you have people around the world that don't even know where they come from, that are Israelites, that are going to receive this word. And some of them are going to wake up. They're going to look like the other nations, but they are Israelites. Right? And when we go into the same verse, Exodus 19:6, right? It says, thou art a holy nation, and holy nation, right? This is addressed to the Israelites. You can't say, no, that's not addressed to the Israelites. Holy nation. When you look up the word holy nation. Holy is Quadash or Quadawash. It's Qudash. And nation is what? Gawaya. Once again. So you have to know the context. But sometimes it uses the word Gentiles. And when it uses the word Gentiles, automatically people think, oh, that's talking about the heathens. Like let's see what it says here. Let's see if we put in Gentile meaning definition. Let's see what it says. See, a Gentile is a person who is not Israelite. No, we just read because what is the Hebrew word for Gentile or Gentiles? Gawaya or Gawaya, which it just simply means nation. Right? It says a term originating from Latin and used in religious context to describe non-Jews, particularly in the Bible, where it means nations or foreigners. See, it means nations. And it doesn't necessarily mean foreigners because foreigners, there's a different Hebrew word for foreigners. You have Thawashab and you have Nakar. Now, in the case of the word Nakar or Bun Nakar or Bun Nakaria or Nakaria, Nakar is an actual heathen. But there are about 5% of the time that it speaks about the Israelites being Nakar. This is why they try to use scriptures like 1 Kings, the 8th chapter, where it goes into, the strangers which are not of thy people. Those are Israelites that became heathens. And then when you go to Isaiah 56, the word there for stranger is Nakar. And that's also speaking about an Israelite. Because when you go to Jeremiah 2 and 21, when it says that I planted the holy, matter of fact, let me get that one. Right? Let me get that one. Let's go to Jeremiah 2. And this shows you that there's times when the word Nakar is used that is speaking about the children of Israel, as in the case of Isaiah 56 and the case of 1 Kings 8, about 43 or so, Second Chronicles 6, Jeremiah 2:21. Yet I have planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? And when you look up this word strange, what do you have? You have the word Nakarya, which speaks about an actual heathen, but in this case, it's applied to the Israelites. Foreign, alien, foreigner, foreign woman. So it's applied normally to a foreigner, but in the case of here that we're reading in Jeremiah 2, it's applied to the Israelites. So when you see this word Nakar or Nakarya being used in the sense of being saved, as in the case of Isaiah 56 and 1 Kings 8, those are Israelite foreigners, not the actual heathen. So it's the same situation with the word Gentile, the word stranger. And this is why even Divine Prospect, he's supposed to be this top scholar, he botched up the Passover on Exodus, the 12th chapter, where he said, well, if the Gentiles, they get circumcised. No, that's talking about the Israelite foreigners. This is why there's different Hebrew words there. You see? But they get confused and combusturated, over the word Gentile. Just like they get combusturated over the word nation, they get combusturated over the word world, so on and so forth. Just bear with me 1 second, Baba Shah. right, so I'm gonna end it there, and Laura's will come back and do another part because I got to get ready to roll out of here in a couple of minutes. I want to try to, you know, get a couple of things done before I split. And Laura's will I could come back and do another part because I have something else I wanted to go into concerning these basic fundamental, building block scriptures. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.